Okay, make sure you're only looking at this video if you've already solved the word search puzzle with the pictures of the cereal bars that stand for the letters B-A-R. I'm going to show you the solution in the book. So you can pause here to check your work if you like. Hope I can come a little closer. That's pretty clever, isn't it? I bet you could come up with something like that. Choose any short word with a picture and see what words you can come up with around it. Let's continue on page 86, chapter 7. One of the Brookfield kids approached their teacher cautiously. "Mr. Regal, sir, we found the puzzle. We have to go through the maze over there." Mr. Regal glanced at his teammate. Red-faced and furious, he looked like the last man in the world you'd find cavorting through a hay bale maze. "All right, you kids get to it," he said. "I want to talk to our competition here for a moment." He laced the word competition with smoky anger. Winston wondered if he really thought Mr. Garvey was somehow responsible for their flat tire. More than likely, he was just lashing out at the world. When the Brookfield student had run off to join his teammates, Mr. Regal swung his glare around again to Mr. Garvey, who was trying to counter Mr. Regal's fury with an equal measure of calm. Mr. Garvey said, "Someone gave us the gift of a flat tire as well." Mr. Regal looked disbelievingly and reluctant to be anything other than angry. "Oh, really? And yet here you are, well ahead of us." "Well, we got ours right out of the gate as we left the potato chip factory. Step around my car and you can see the spare tire for yourself. Believe me, we're a lot further behind than I want to be. It was a glass bottle someone put under my tire. What about you?" Mr. Regal slowly nodded his head. "That's what happened to us, too." "As you left the planetarium?" "No. We stopped at a deli for some snacks and drinks. We weren't in there for more than 5 minutes. When we came out and back the car, there was a popping sound." "I don't suppose you saw any other teams there," Mr. Garvey said. "Nope, there was nobody else in the store." "Anyone else in the lot?" "Don't you think I looked after I realized what happened? There were other cars, but I don't know who they belonged to. I didn't see any teams." Mr. Garvey said, "We seem to have a very determined cheater in our midst." Mr. Regal turned red again. "I should say so. Obviously, we were targeted because we were in the lead. We were the first ones to solve the planetarium puzzle, I'm sure. They can't compete with us on a level playing field, so they'll do underhanded, devious—" He couldn't finish. He brought his clenched hands up to his face as if he wished he had someone to strangle. He found his voice again and said, "I hope I catch the cheater in the act. I really do." "Oh, I understand that feeling," Mr. Garvey said. Mr. Regal took a deep breath in an attempt to get himself under control. "Now, if you'll excuse me," he said, "I have a puzzle to solve and a contest to win." He gave Mr. Garvey a challenging stare, as if Mr. Garvey might suggest they couldn't possibly win now. When Mr. Garvey said nothing, Mr. Regal turned his back and stormed away. Mal said in a low voice, "All these teachers are crazy." "Maybe they think the losers are going to be shipped to a desert island somewhere," Miss Winston said. Mr. Garvey watched the angry Mr. Regal for a moment and then slid into the driver's seat. Winston saw he was suppressing a smile. "What a nice guy," Mr. Garvey said as he started his car. "I wish him well." He pulled out of the parking space. Winston took one last group at Sutherland Farms. He saw the girls from Greater Oaks, Bethany, Giselle, and Elvie, walking through the parking lot with their red-headed teacher. They must have finished the maze a few minutes ago. Winston ducked instinctively, but the girls weren't looking in their direction. Mr. Garvey stopped at the edge of the lot. "Where am I going?" he asked. "Huh? Oh, said Jake, and he flipped on the computer. "The next puzzle is—" "Cool! Adventureland!" "Adventureland? Awesome!" Winston and Mal grinned at each other. Adventureland was a seriously fun amusement park a couple of towns over. Winston and his family drifted over there a couple of times a year on humid summer nights. Mr. Garvey grunted. The first day of summer vacation, that place is going to be jam-packed. Do we get in free there too? Winston asked. Yep, just show them the computer. All summer long? Mal asked. Jake and Winston laughed. Probably just today, Winston said. Mal snapped his fingers in mock disappointment. Okay, said Mr. Garvey. I know where that is. Let's get going. He pulled out of the parking lot, and a few minutes later, they were on a highway. Winston gazed out the window and found himself thinking about the smile that Mr. Garvey had not entirely suppressed after speaking to the Brookfield teacher. It was clear Mr. Garvey considered the Brookfield Brains flat tire to be good news. The Brains had gotten pretty far ahead while Winston's team dealt with their own setbacks. Now they had caught up, and then some. By hurting the Brookfield Brains, the cheater inadvertently helped Winston. He knew he shouldn't feel happy, but Brookfield had had such trouble, but a part of him couldn't help it. He remembered that stab of frustration he felt when he saw the Brains running out of the planetarium. He wondered how his team would ever catch up, but now they had. He wondered where Brendan Root was, and if his team had also a run-in with the cheater. He hoped not. Mostly. But he had to admit it wouldn't be entirely bad if Brendan's team was held in place for a little while. If Winston and his team won now, would it be fair? It wasn't like they had cheated. Quite the opposite. They'd been thrown out of the race not once, but twice. If they managed to cross the finish line despite everything that had happened to them, they would well have earned that grand prize. Of course, they were a long way from winning. He couldn't count on that prize money just yet. Winston gazed out the window and soon fell into a game he played on long trips as he watched the license plates on passing cars. Guess what? Time to get out your packet and look for the puzzle on page 90.